Swapping over to the second half of the night, we kickstart with Elevate taking on the Knights. This one back in 2021, especially in Stage 1, would have been an absolute barn burner. But ever since then, there are some question marks coming into this matchup. Dev, what are we thinking heading into this head-to-head?
Yeah, well, I mean, 6 months ago, these were the two best teams in APAC South, and now, well, Knights is in third place, which is probably higher than a lot of people expected, and Elevate is down in 6th. They have only won a single match so far, already dropped devastating losses to both Renatus and Direwolf, so they have a lot of work to do here. This team that they went to Invitational and they stunned the global audience. They really have hit some serious lows since that.
Sorry, I thought you were going to keep talking there. They have, haven't they, Raven? It felt like they really slipped over there.
Yeah, no, look, it's been a bit of a tumultuous Stage 1 for Elevate, but it feels like they're building. It's slow, but they're building. I think the 7-4 against Wildcard was actually quite a good win. I mean, we've seen some fairly consistent form from Wildcard. Yes, their closing ability isn't the greatest, but they've taken IG to 7-5. They just took Chiefs 7-5. So, you know, I think a 7-4 victory over Wildcard is fairly decent for Elevate. Yeah. I think it's just about them finding some consistency now so they can really start to get back to some strength.
Geez, talking about consistency, talking about a team needing to find some kind of form to get back to some sort of strength. It is Knights that they're coming up against. The team that went from the highest highs to the lowest lows, Stage 2 of last year. They finished first. Stage 3, they fell down to the very bottom. 8th place with only 7 points. That's 1 win in regulation and 2 overtime wins. Dev, surely this year has to be better for them than Stage 3 was.
Well, it's already started off a lot better. They're currently in 3rd place. They've taken victories over 2 Southeast Asian teams, the Thai in Fury and, of course, the Indonesians on Renatus. Now they're going up against another one, but they've struggled so far since rejuvenating their roster against Oceanic teams. They lost to Wildcard in the opening Playday 7-2. They lost to Ludovica last night in OCN. And look, that was a pretty devastating loss. I know it's OCN, it's not APAC South, doesn't lead to the major, but I think someone commented that, you know, they almost, I think barely anyone tweeted after the match happened. I think Sage like left the server instantly. It was a bit of a tilter, right, to lose to a team like that. And so, I mean, I sure hope for their sake that they haven't let that get to their heads, because Elevate in their current form are absolutely a beatable opponent for Knights, and they need those points to lock in playoffs.
3 points on the line here. We'll have a look what map we go to determine whether we've got a favored skewed in either sense. There we go. Technically the second time we've seen a new map. Well, I guess second time we've seen a new map in the veto process, but Border Raven, I mean, do we even put any expectations out on the line here?
Oh, I mean, this throws a lot of things in disarray for us in terms of analysis on the desk, but I tell you what, I would feel like in terms of natural playstyle, Border to me feels like it favors Elevate. I feel like they are a bit of a erratic team, but also they've ran it in a lot as well. So they're starting to have those 2 modes. I think it's how I've referenced it in the past. So I feel like Border might actually be okay for them in their current form or in their current system. Hard to say, I guess. Speaking to form, I feel like I'm still super unconvinced by Knights' form. The 2-7 loss to Wildcard, pretty bad. And the 2 teams they have beaten, Renatus and Fury. Yep. I don't think that's really like proven much to me yet.
Fair enough. Dev, let me preface this. I need quick predictions here before we get to the casters.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we have seen Border at a regional level in Rainbow Six since the rework. I've seen it in Nationals, but never Regionals, so I'm ecstatic. I just can't wait to see what happens.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens as well and to take you through all of the action. It's 2 talkie boys, it's Guz and it's Xenox.
Well, they seem very happy. They seem very excited. Guz, what are your feelings? We're going to Border. Is this the first time you've even cast it before?
Wait, what? No. Of course not. I'm super keen to jump into this one though. Border, if it is the first time we've seen it regionally, back in Dev there, really excited. Unlike most, I feel like I'm actually a bit of a Border fan.
Ooh, a little connoisseur.
But yeah, I'm very keen.
Now, this is going to be a big game, though. Elevate and Knights Social basically saying this one is split down the middle. Xenox fun fact, straight away, out the gate here, guys. It's a must-win game here for both of these 2 teams. The run home after this game for both is, well, very difficult. Knights play Chiefs, then they play IG, then they play Direwolves. must win this game against Elevate. And Elevate's run home's not that much easier either. IG, then Chiefs, and then Fury to close it out. So big points on offer for both of these two teams. I'm going to go early. I think the winner of this game makes top 4 and the loser misses out.
Ooh, very big call. I will say, purely from an objective statistic basis, because Elevate had a bit of a slower start to the stage, if they lose this, they're done. If they lose this, particularly in regulation, that leaves them with a 12% chance of making the top 4 and making the playoffs. So yes, to an extent, it's must win for both these teams. I totally agree. Very critical for both. But if you're an Elevate fan, you cannot see them lose this game. If they do, especially with a tricky run home, they're not going to make the playoffs.
I can't even remember who I tipped tonight, whether it was Knights or Elevate. I think it may have been Elevate. I've been tipping against them the last couple of Playdays. As Valkyrie gets banned out, we've had Thatcher, Finker, and Mira taken off the board. No real surprises with any of those. Realistically, those are pretty much staple, even outside of Border, as we do head to Border. This is going to be exciting. It's the first map of the 3 new additions to the map pool, making its way into APAC South. We almost had Skyscraper 2 nights ago, guys. Of course, that got canned very quickly. Border gets through tonight. We head over to Armory and Archives to start. Knights on the defense, Elevate on the attack. Now, very quickly, though, what are we expecting here in terms of defense, attack? Who's sided here on Border, guys? Any clues from the connoisseur?
Ooh, well, Dev has actually gone to the trouble of finding the all-time record on this map. So every single match that's ever been played on Border, it's been in the map pool competitively for years now. So a lot of data, percent towards the attack, 52% towards the defense. Are those numbers going to change much with the rework? Plenty of people I've seen strong opinions on Twitter theorizing that this map has not changed enough to significantly shift the meta in competitive. You do throw an attack a repick and that could see things balance out a wee bit more. But that's the thing I'm looking at over the course of this game. How much is the setups changing from the defense? How much is the attacking structure actually going to shape up from what we've come to expect on Border? It has been out for a little bit, has been shaped around a little bit as well post rework. So super keen to see who wins out this game and if it will be as a result of their homework. Will the team that's stratted out better and prepared for this map in a more professional manner be able to get the win?
Very different maps, but I think maybe a comparison for me could be when Bank kind of came back into the map pool and we spoke about, are there going to be much differences in the way that certain sites do get played out? Well, there were some changes and some reworks to Bank. It was nothing too crazy. And when it did first come back in, we think back, it was basically like teams were playing it the way that Bank used to get played. Now, as there's been a bit more time, we're seeing some new adaptations on Bank. I think Border could end up being the same here. I could be wrong, but I'm expecting probably more of the past rather than the future straight away. It will take teams time unless they've been practicing it in the background a lot.
Ooh, Ying Rush off the bat, but Juicy shuts it down. Candela still pops and Elevate may look to push off the back of that disruption, but Sapper also falls. Unfortunate start here for Elevate. They try to get overly aggressive. Mr. Punch will go for the plant. Josh goes for denial, jumps over, and able to get the shot. The coverage there from Elevate, not sufficient as they fall like flies, and this will be a Knights round off the bat.
Yeah, this is, well, a very quick round from start to finish as the Knights will make quick work of this rush attack from Elevate. And, well, we didn't really see too much, really, of the map itself, but Elevate bringing that aggression as always. It does backfire. The Montang was utilized along with the Ying. What year is this?
And that's the discussion we had. How similar is the map going to play out? A Monty Ying aggressive quote-unquote rush plant on the carpet is reminiscent of old Border. Now, I think teams have evolved past that point and are much better in being able to deny that sort of strategy, and the Knights showcasing it there in that round. So a cheeky little approach there from Elevate doesn't serve them very well, and Onigiri will now be able to reassess for the next minute, sit outside and have a cup of tea with the rest of the team.
We've seen this a couple of times in APAC South, or at least in this region, where teams have a player left alive and they kind of just chill out for a little bit. I don't think there's too much to gain of that, though, inside of the first round. It's great for the Knights, though. I think that they were very much prepared for that, dealt with it pretty comfortably. It is kind of ironic, Elevate who banned out the Finker, because the Finker would be so much more impactful on that kind of rush attack. As Sage is, well, happy.
Can't blame him. I'd be pretty happy after this round.
It's a freebie. And Onigiri gets the freebie onto Juicy too. Doesn't really give us much though for the map as itself. Just the one round gone, and a lot of it coming down to the fact that Elevate's rush attack was, I think, maybe even too quick for that part. I don't even know if they got much use out of the Kandalas. It was just very rushed. A bit sloppy, and the Knights do make them pay.
Nothing overly inspiring there coming out from Elevate, trying to play aggressive off the back of the Yin Kandalas into that Montaigne plant, but the denial not really there as members drop too soon. Good effort there from the Knights, able to win that Archives objective on the top floor. We'll now see them rotate over towards Bathroom and Towers. For most who have played this map in ranked, this is sometimes even the primary site, significantly bolstered after the rework, as it's a bit easier to hold with the rotation over towards the window, which you can prep. Teams also often extending over towards workshop and maybe even up above into office as well. For me, this is probably the one objective I'm most excited to see. How do teams actually set it up? Because ranked is a whole different ballgame to competitive siege, as you often have much better ability to play off one another and extend across the map. And border, in comparison to most maps, still quite small. So expecting the defense to spread out here, not too thin to make things overly tricky, but enough to retain map control and try to prevent Elevate from getting free map presence anyway.
Towers Bathroom, you can have that vert hold up above as well, play through the hatch. Depends on how you want to set it up. You could bring castle barricades and really kind of just hone in above, but it looks as if this will just be a little bit more simple, reinforce, and electrified as well with the Kaid Claws. 2 nitro cells available for the Knights, a couple of frag grenades as well. Obviously, I don't think Elevate and judging by their lineup composition are going to be all that aggressive in this second round. It will be a slower approach, dealing with utility, opening up lines of sight. Question is, how do the Knights set up for this? How many do they play above, and how wide do they go as well across the bottom floor? As that is so annoying.
You're breaking up, Xenox.
Yeah, static.
Oh, good play there from Knights though, shutting down a shock drone as Elevate look to try and push in through detention in towards customs, but it's proving to be a little bit tricky. DCH though elsewhere, over towards CC finds one, and on a Geary doubles down for a second. So although the Knights are playing well in the utility game, unfortunately frags not falling their way. Now Josh, Juicy and Stigs backs against the wall. Still more than half the round remaining.
Anakiru's going to be careful to not go down too easily here, but Elevate so far getting whatever they want here in the second round, and Knights definitely feeling the pressure, wanting to peak this, wanting to find one back, and Stigs, well, all he gets is a couple of bullets into the shoulder and is now forced back on half health, and Onigiri's patience here is being rewarded. Expecting maybe some sort of flank, but Elevate playing into this second round, polar opposite to the first round. First round was that blitz attack. And this one has just been sit outside, pick them off, force Knights into positions where they're in the sight line, get those kills, and now with a minute left, they'll start to go into that execution mode.
The Knights still not holding awful positions, sight still exposed, and clearly the defense extending still over towards the west as Elevate elect to push there. I think Mark, though, has rotated, looking for a more hands-on approach towards the objective, as X-Kairos will be detonated straight into the objective itself. Stiggs does find a kill, and that's Onigiri shut down. Mark timed over towards Bathroom, could have collected that kill, but won't be able to do so. Whiffs the second as well, as Elevate need to think about how they'll transition in towards the site. Sapper has a good cross, but the rest of the team need to link up with that diffuser and try to find something on the objective. DCH finds something on the vert. Josh drops elsewhere. Now Stiggs needs to retake from customs. This is going to be a tall order for him, trying to find the twitch through the wall in Passport, but that won't be on the agenda. Now isolated from the rest of the team, shut down by Mark. A solid round there from Elevate.
Yeah, credit to DCH there on the sledge, goes upstairs into offices, opens up a few sight lines down below, puts a lot of pressure onto Juicy, which if there was no pressure or even perceived pressure onto Juicy, can then play into those gas babes a little bit better, defending down below a bit better, but in the end gets taken down. Got taken down about half health first and then finished off with the toe shot. Much better though from Elevate, and that's probably the way you would expect to see here on border rather than that almighty blitz rush that we saw in the first round, which kind of feels like a wasted round. But I guess sometimes in that opening round, you maybe want to see if you can get them with a bit of a sucker punch. Didn't work, obviously, but they bounce back in the second, and we actually go back to Bathroom again here in the third round, so Knights will look to repeat.
Yeah, and I got to say, at least in the first 2 rounds so far, pretty tricky to get a read as to like what's going on at all, because they've both been sloppy rounds. The first was sloppy from Elevate on their rush attempt, and then that extension from the Knights, unfortunately, sort of fell apart a little bit as well. So we're yet to see more of a traditional 5v5 skirmish deep into the round as teams fight for strongholds around the objective and on the objective itself. But maybe as well, on the flip side, that could be just the nature of how Border is going to play out. The meta is probably the most aggressive it has ever been, particularly early on, as teams battle for map control, and maybe that's just going to be the playstyle. Knights are going to continually play aggressive offside and back themselves in as Elevate look to get in towards the map itself, clear out some of these key positions, and get a pick or two for the late round trade.
Yeah, and Sage on that Vigil then, right? If you're going to be playing offside as much as you are, so important that the Vigil doesn't go down so early as they did in the last round.
Shock drone again taken down early. Didn't serve the Knights particularly well last time, but you can see Elevate, again, they want to push through this detention wall in towards Custom to get that foothold on the square cross, but they're finding it tricky to clear the mute jammer. Eventually, Onigiri comes across with a nade, so that crisis is averted, but just a little bit sloppy and a little bit of time wasted.
Got the Roteros as well, so the Twitch drones aren't everything there for Mr. Punch. If you lose one early, it's not the end of the world. You got Roteros, you got nades, you got the sledge, you got so much to open things up and get rid of that utility of the Knights, especially the mute jammers, the Coyote Claws. Oh, this is nice from Sticks, though, through the tangent. Just swings outside. Easy one to DCH. Now, that's pretty big. The sledge off the board can't now cause havoc up above in the late round like we saw in the last round.
Good swing and momentum for the Knights, but Onigiri capitalizes a vault into a kill and Stiggs shut down. 4v4, a good trade there from one of the most dangerous men inside of this server.
So it's one aggressive play, then answered back by another aggressive play. Onigiri in the last round was just hanging outside that supply window. This time just says, all right, I'm going to go in. I know where Stiggs is, catch him off guard, and does just that. Brings it back to a 4 versus 4. But again, I think the real battle is going to be up above. And in the last round, it was lost pretty comfortably by the Knights. Can they hold on a little bit longer here in round number 3? Minute 10 seconds, doing much better time-wise. As we see the Roteros go in from Sapper, has one more after this.
As you can see, only one player on the objective itself here for the defense. A couple scattered up above and a singular defender inside of Workshop. The Knights looking to prevent Elevate from getting this map control and allowing some of that soft and hard breach from having an impact up above. DCH dropping first, of course, will have an impact here on Elevate. Lessen their ability to expose some of these defenders in towards the site who are looking quite comfortable. Smoke's deployed, however. Bot square cut off. And Elevate are in a decent spot to start thinking about a plant. Mr. Punch and Onigiri shutting down that aggression, and now Juicy and Quiz to hold on.
Yeah, one more gas babe available for Juicy at the very least, and still a Nitrocell for Quiz. So they do have some sort of supply. Sapper now into Bathroom, and that's an easy elimination. Juicy just caught really with too much pressure, too many angles that he had to kind of keep an eye on. Mark's going to get the plant down. I think Elevate's going to get 2 rounds in a row here. Onigiri has just been watching and waiting from inside a supply for 90% of this game. Quiz takes a peek, sees one, and now they know exactly where he is inside of Workshop. He should be pretty much lined up here at some point. I don't sense he's going to be able to go too far from here, and does not. Got Mark, but was traded back by Mark as well. It's 2-1 in favor of Elevate.
So far, Elevate doing a decent job, again, outside of that first round, of exploiting border. It is inherently a very difficult map to actually have people on the objective. And I know that's kind of weird to say, especially in competitive Siege where you often see roams, but it's just so tricky to sit on the objective itself. Exposing angles isn't particularly hard. We saw that from Bot Square, for example. On that particular objective, you have the Teller's window as well, cutting off a big cross. And that forces defenders to roam. And there's quite a big footprint that you need to try and hold on to in a couple of key locations. And for the Knights, those ones aren't quite going their way. And then as they re-aggressed, Onigiri in particular was very proactive in shutting down that re-aggression. And from that point onwards, it's very difficult to get back in the round for the Knights. So again, Elevate doing a good job exploiting the map so far. And if it is going to end up being attacker-sided, they'll want to be extending this lead significantly.
think back to that first round here for Armory Lockers, and it was that rush attack from Elevate, which was subdued very easily by the Knights. Can't imagine they'll be going for anything similar to that, and the attacking lineup that they've brought here suggests very much as they get rid of the Ying, they get rid of the Montaigne. They're not going to be playing any more games. They'll play this one out in a more serious manner, and this is where it can get really concerning for the Knights, guys. If Elevate do win this particular round, right, it's not going to be through a sort of silly, unconventional means of a rush attack with the Monty and the Ying, which obviously they lost that. It would mean 3-1 and pretty much control here on border established for Elevate if they win here.
Plenty of dangerous utility here from Elevate for a border attack. You have Mark on the hard breach, and he'll be looking to probably open up the double wall to expose half wall inside of the objective. But then you have plenty of players with soft breach potential. The Sledge is going to be deadly, especially with 2 nades. Sapper on Zofia as well can deal with Maestro Evil Eyes, for example. So there's plenty of tools in the arsenal here for Elevate to defeat any hurdles in front of them. It looks like they're trying to get some CCTV control. The Knights, though, playing quite aggressive with angles from 90, preventing that from being a free take. So it's really funny how, you know, we're not very deep into the round and not very much has happened, but it's because teams are fighting for supremacy at these resistance points, and Sage gets that first pick outside of the map, but it's a key one at that.
Yeah, and again, it's only the 4th round, but you don't want to allow Elevate to get 3 rounds in a row and to continue to build up that momentum. All this information here. Nice ping onto this 90 position. Well, I thought didn't throw it and then did. A little delayed with it, but DCH still finds the elimination onto Stigs. And then elsewhere, a couple more trades. Suddenly, now, a bit of a bloodbath here in the mid-round of this 4th round. 3 versus 3. Just under a minute remaining.
Attackers have located a bomb.
And while Elevate have done a decent job down below, it's still the main objective above that they need to actually get closer to contesting. Knights still with 2 nitrocells as well as 2 frag grenades as well in the back pocket. Smoke goes out. Mark, nice little angle. That was discovered. Play inside of the smoke, or at least on the back side of it. Josh gets the elimination. That's Diffuser down on the floor. 30 seconds remaining. Nitrocell thrown on the other side. Got some distance, but did not find the mark. DCH had missed the punch now in a 2 versus 2. Time is of the essence. Josh, does he swing and shoot? He does, but he falls to Mr. Punch. And now suddenly Juicy in the 1 versus 2 can play for time, but not too much of it. DCH gets in, goes for the diffuser. Nades get thrown out, but I don't know if Juicy's got all that much information as to what they're going to be able to do. Gets the down, but diffuser already on the floor. The swing from Mr. Punch, though, is perfect. And Elevate now make it 3 rounds in a row.
Really good display of the trading potential that Elevate have there. Really good swing in the dying seconds with the F2, and Elevate looking strong and confident here on these border attacks. That's 3 rounds straight. And the only blight on their record was the failed rush, suggesting that when they're structured, when they're methodical, and when they have these attacks well thought out, they are very, very tricky to take down. And it's up to the Knights now to respond, to keep themselves in this game. The next round isn't necessarily a must win, but it would set themselves up quite nicely to mount some sort of a comeback. The margin at the moment is not that significant, especially if it ends up being attacker-sided, but the fact that Elevate have taken 3 straight makes it look very difficult for the Knights to start finding rounds back in response. They do head us over towards customs, though, so they're going to bring that ace out of the pocket and see if this off-meta objective can serve them well.
First time we're going to go see Customs supply here in the 5th round. Knights have just looked a little shaky here on the defense. Very much contained to site, not a lot of pressure off of it. Despite even having players playing off of site, they just haven't really been able to get Elevate under pressure early on in these rounds. They're getting whatever they want, really. And the trade game is probably going to benefit Elevate, as has been the case so far in this first half. Onigiri continue to play this front entrance position as he has been doing, but this time now will be obviously closer to site and has a buddy in hand through Sapper. Roteros can go in, not only a bit of information, but clear out some of this utility.
Plenty of it as well. Evilized from Juicy on the Maestro, as well as those Banshees from Quiz on the Malusi. Interesting decision for Sigs to play the Alibi. Some would say a bit of a controversial pick, but personally I don't mind it. Strong primary. The Prismas can offer a little bit in distraction, and deployable shield as well. So powerful.
I love the fact, right, we're seeing obviously new operators on this map, right? Since when it was back in the pool last time, Flores is almost turning this into like an Oregon of sorts, just being able to sort of sit outside and clear out utility with ease. I wonder if Flores might become a bit of a ban on border in the future.
Juice is in one of the most powerful but also precarious positions of the map, trying to deny the entry over towards detention, the vault into supply as well. Stiggs, though, is offering a hand in support. He's up above. Nice lines of sight. Really cheeky from him. But if Elevate decide to flood the site, I don't know if the Knights will have enough strength to push them back.
And everything just flowing the way of Elevate straight into supply, although that's going to be the Gemini of Onigiri on cooldown, and well, now dead as well. Juicy actually able to find that nice little angle. Mark as well, actually inside too. They're just going to go for it. Middle of the round does not matter. And the round's gone by. Elevate have left it to the last second, but this time they catch Knights sleeping. While they've got players up above that just didn't have the angles into supply. Josh, though, now getting back over towards site, finds the elimination off to DCH. And while the Knights are still above, they have to send someone down below to get the job done. Stiggs catches Mark. Elevate losing players far too easily here.
25 seconds. Mr. Punch outside in the key position. Sapper not in the best trade position himself. Mr. Punch still outside as Sage collects that kill. Now he needs to try and hold on, find 3, but it's going to be tough. Josh will hit the kit. Mr. Punch will hit the sound cue and attempts the swing, but Stiggs with the perfect trade, and it's perfect timing from the Knights to get another round on the board.
And we saw Stiggs make that same similar play through the detention hole in a round gone prior. Makes the same play again this time, but with more on the line. Just a little sloppy from Elevate. Not so much in getting the plant down, especially in the mid-round. Found a couple of kills, found a way into supply without those above really being able to have any sort of impact. But then they just fell too easily. You've got plant down. I mean, why? I just don't understand how they're just going down so easily and so quickly. There was still about 27 seconds left on that countdown of the diffuser before it became like a 1v3 or a 2v3 in favor of the Knights. So you've got to keep bodies alive as long as you possibly can. If you need to throw them at the end, you do it at the end.
Yeah, the most disappointing thing for Elevate in that round is both players weren't outside in the post plant. That is such a tricky position for the Knights to retake if you have a couple of players outside to prevent the detention run out or to trade it out or to prevent front door or the window jump out. And there's lots of long angles. As an attacker, you can sit back and watch that diffuser quite safely. So maybe a bit of an oversight there. Very difficult to, get a full read on exactly what happened just due to the chaotic nature of that particular round. But well done by the Knights. They clearly timed the trades very well, and we can't fault them on that. It was a little bit close in the end. I think, who was on the kit? I think it was Josh. He did actually fall off as that initial swing came through before Stiggs got the trade and then got back on. So there was only a couple of seconds between a winner or loss there. But the Knights, as I mentioned, timing it perfectly and keeping themselves in this game. From what we have seen so far, it's so hard for me to say, are the Knights finding it tricky because they're not playing as well as they could be, or is it the map? I'm starting to think it's a little bit more just border is really, really, really tough to defend. So for me, 2 rounds on the defense, probably a pretty decent pass market from what we've seen so far. And now they just get a free shot on house money, try and get that 3-3 and really apply some pressure on Elevate, because when they're on the defense, they're going to be feeling this pain as well.
Yeah, I think in some ways as well, more so down below, less so Armory Archives, just the amount of utility that's being cleared with ease from the shock drones, from the Roteros, and even just being able to open up walls and throw frag grenades in. It's just been, all of Knight's utility just gets cleared so easily, and in some ways Mr. Punch showcasing that again, but this time upwards. Oh, this is going to be a big engagement. The swing actually came from Quiz, whether he knew it or not, and had the intel onto DCH. DCH was ready and waiting.
As a drone, spots the player, pings it out for himself. And
Oh, he got him.
finds the down. He'll confirm that with the drone. There we go. It's a pretty free kill sorry, for Elevate.
No.
Or is it? Just shoot him.
Just
Could use
shoot
that
him.
nade elsewhere.
He's so concerned that there's a potential angle that's maybe being held, that if he goes right on top of Quiz, someone's watching him. And while, yeah, there is technically someone up above watching that hatch, I don't know if they had the right angle. They take their time, though. They don't rush it. And honestly, that's the sign of a good team. Sometimes you could just get that rush, that sense of, I'm going to just go in and kill this player, and then before you know it, you're dead because someone's got an angle. Don't mind it, don't hate it. There's a minute left in the round, so stall time. Elevate now have the player advantage. And now Stiggs, though, shuts down Mark. That's Diffuser on the floor, but DCH, again, from down below, at least gets the trade.
Yes, still a win overall there for Stiggs. He was able to distract the team enough to waste a bit of time. Also, eating up a nade. Now there's only 30 seconds left. Elevate, however, still do have that man advantage in hand, and Onigiri can probe towards the bottom of the main stairs late into this round. The question is, where are they going to try and go for the plan? And if Juicy wins this fight, it could change
lovely.
the tide, but Onigiri too strong. May well find a second, and does. Now Sage for the clutch.
Well, the first one's because Onigiri just swings knowing someone's going to be holding top of main stairs. And then the second one is the response swing from the Knights, right? Okay, well, teammates just died, players there, I swing, I get the kill, but they've just completely whiffed it. Really well played from Onigiri to make something happen on site. Elevate were winning off site, and then they go for the execution late round, and they win it quite comfortably. Onigiri taking out 2 players. And Elevate right now, much the better team in this first half. The question is, and you posed this before, Gaz, how much of it is the teams, or is it the map that's having a big influence on this game?
I'd say things still are quite even. Yes, Knights made some notable mistakes in that first half, but a lot of the way in which they were playing to me looked like their hand is being forced by the map. They're having to go for super aggressive and plays that aren't calculated in their favor to try and stand a chance in retaining map control and winning the round. They've been backed into so many corners, and that's a testament to Elevate, right? They're hunting down these players. Their drone work's been really strong, but the map clearly is very tricky to defend, in my opinion.
Well, I think we're going to get some answers in the second half, because if Elevate just run away with things on the defense and look comfortable on the defense, then I think you get your answer, right? And probably say, okay, maybe Knights, the inferior team when it comes to playing Porter. Straight away, though, I do like to see DCH on the castle. I think there's enough play for the castle barricades. And remember, the castle changes that came through were not around back on the old border. So there's more barricades. Yes, they get broken easier. But again, something to keep in mind in terms of the amount of control that you can really create by blocking off.
Sorry to butt in, but you're perfectly on point, right? Look at that extension through to Workshop. They have completely reinforced vents. They've also castled it off. That is a big, big extension on this side of the map. They haven't even created a direct rotation through Bathroom back towards the objective itself. Instead, I'm expecting Elevate will opt to try and hold that from above as well. They're also not extending towards detention like we saw from the Knights, so another big change up. And the Knights, much like Elevate, heading straight there from spawn, looking to try and get that control, but it should, in theory, be a little bit easier to obtain. So buffer points are being created differently here by both teams on the defense.
And the Pulse is a big switch up as well. We did not see that in the first half from the Knights. I think Knights kept their lineup pretty conservative, as Sage just gets a freebie into security, which is going to be somewhat of a factor in this upper floor control later on. But for now, just trying to maybe just see who's maybe roaming down below. And, well, I don't really see too much below him. But going back to that, I think, again, you can clearly see a distinctive difference between Elevate and how they've set up and the Knights and how they set up.
It's felt a lot more passive here from the attack, but Knights haven't been forced to really do much. Oh, there actually is a player down below inside of Workshop. So I was expecting maybe that won't be the case, but there is a rotation in towards bathroom. So we'll keep an eye on Sapper later on in this round. Onigiri though, still popping off 9 and 4. Stiggs off the board first. Yana as well dealt with. So it's a couple of nades and Juicy falls as well. So it's a couple of Salmas on the ground too. Very big from Onigiri, who finds 3 from this position. DCH finds one as well as Onigiri getting fed one by one. And it's a flawless start for Elevate.
Are they just continually walking in directly his line of sight? I mean, he's got nothing else that he needs to hold. He's already holding the one and only angle that he needs to hold, and they just keep walking into it, making it all too easy. Onigiri is not even breaking a sweat. Elevate not even breaking a sweat. And suddenly now the scoreboard has blown out. It's a 5-2 lead, and Knights are just not looking as competent here on Border as Elevate are, and they've called a tactical timeout.
I think you've got to, after that, a disappointing start for the attack on the side of the Knights. And unlike their counterparts, it wasn't a miscalculated, overly aggressive rush play. It was well considered. They had a strategic plan that they were trying to employ. They took control up above, then were aiming for top square, but Onigiri was in their way. And as much as they tried to trade it out, unfortunately could not find that kill. And that's a big stunt to their momentum, or their ability to gain momentum here.
And again, as I said at the changing of the half, it was coming into the second half where I think we would get some answers about, is it the map, is it the teams, or the way they're playing on the map. And I already like what I saw more from Elevate than I did from the Knights. Knights looked a little bit conservative, almost like old Border, and Elevate's playing it more like, well, new Border in a sense, and just more so the 2022 way of sort of playing these games, using the castle barricades to, I think, a very effective manner, and being able to also control more vertically as well, and not spreading too wide. And the Knights just didn't really have much to go off of, because you can't just go straight for sight. You've got to clear above, and then they just walk straight into Onigiri. Easy as that. So really disappointing so far from the Knights.
Yeah, it was actually quite impressive to see how much at least perceived pressure Elevate seemed to command across the map, yet they were nowhere near as vulnerable and spread thin, particularly in positions where they couldn't retrade, like the Knights were on their defense. So I'm keen to see, does that continue? Will Elevate play a little bit closer to one another, a little bit closer towards the objective, while still posing doubt in the minds of the Knights that maybe they are extending aggressively? And after that first round, that's going to be tested for the Knights big time.
Yeah. There is one thing that I do like to see, though, which is Sage on the buck, especially here for Armory Archives. I think that was one thing that I was a little surprised to not see Elevate bring out, sticking with the sledge, which I found a little bit odd because you want that pressure from below, and Buck's going to give that quite a bit better than the sledge. So I think Sage on the buck, something to keep an eye on in this particular round, a very big round as we head to Armory Archives for the first time in the second half. So keep an eye on that and see if the Knights can make something happen. Josh already seeing out this castle barricade, but that does mean it's one less angle to keep an eye on. Walks on through, and that's at least East Stairs control already established, and nice to see the Knights sort of moving quickly here.
Well, they need to. If they want to take down these castle barricades and establish control on the CC side of the map, they're going to have to deal with this pretty swiftly. And it looks like Elevate, again, not extending with manpower per se, but more so with this castle utility, which is an awesome innovation to see. Quiz, though, looking to spoil the day. Down below, nade in hand. There we go. Was going to get that kill, but Josh sneakily will take it away from him. Mr. Punch, though, in a position to still hold on to CCTV, but his chances now of holding this successfully significantly go down as he is being droned out as well.
And I really do like the Knight setup here because they've got both the sledge and the buck. The sledge to really trying to counteract this castle. They know they're not going to really be roaming too much. They're going to be really contained within those castle barricades for the most part. As Juicy had an opportunity there to maybe find an elimination as Onigiri does eventually get taken down. Sage on the buck. And so far, Knights, I think, are playing a lot of pressure right now onto Elevate. Their ability to open up a lot of sightlines and deal with the castle barricades is really stunting this defensive approach from Elevate.
Yep, it's the buck. It's the vertical control here from the Knights. So strong. Nades as well, powerful. Sapper, though, responds onto Juicy, and Sage couldn't trade that one. Mr. Punch as well through 90 finds a pick, but again from below, it's Sage for 2. Good response from the Knights. They are counteracting this setup from the defense, but it still could go either way. Josh is inside of break and has a foothold. We'll need to pick up that diffuser. Elevate looking to try and reposition as Sage is forced up above. He can no longer play down below. He needs to trade alongside Josh. And here comes a big decision. Do they push through offers, try and trade into archives, or maybe they go for beepers? Either way, it's going to be a tough push with 30 seconds on the board.
They've got 6 flashes, make it 5 now, 4. So Josh getting his out first, and now it's full light onto Sapper, whereas DCH and Sapper have no utility whatsoever. Just holding on here for dear life as DCH. Sapper's got the perfect angle. May have even gone for the trigger discipline and held it. That would have actually then got the elimination onto Josh. Instead, went for the front man. That gave time now for Josh. Has to stick this diffuser down. DCH should have obviously all of the information, having just seen his teammate go down. Allows the diffuser to go all the way down, but then has... well, the frame of mind to those behind the bomb chassis. Easy kill, easy elimination, easy round for Elevate. It's match point 6-2 here on Border.
The smallest of errors for the Knights, costing them in that round. A slightly wider peek in towards Fountain, and it probably would have been theirs in a 2 versus 1, but Elevate flip that story around. 2 defensive wins in a row, showing that maybe Border isn't as tricky to defend as the Knights made it out to be. Big game for Elevate. Remember, to keep essentially their playoff dream alive, they need a win here, and they are showing they deserve a spot in the top 4 at the moment.
And it's that double-edged sword here. Not only are you getting your 3 points, but you are denying the Knights from getting points. You then get the head-to-head against them. This effectively will put Elevate into the top 4 at the end of tonight. And as I sort of said when we came into this game, Knights play Chiefs, Knights play IG, Knights play Direwolves. You could not literally have a tougher run home. This could see the Knights out of top 4 if they don't come back in this game. Like, that is how significant this is going to be. Yes, they've had a decent start to the stage, but really, they beat the team that got promoted from the promo relegations, and they beat Fury. It's not a whole lot to write home about, and of course, they got demolished by Wildcard. So it's easy to sit back coming into tonight. They got the 6 points, plus 4 round differential, but the real test started tonight, and so far, they're getting an F.
10 seconds remaining.
Oof. An F from Mr. Xenox. I would not want that on the report card. That would sting. I'm sure getting no points tonight as well will be very hurtful for the Knights. It's not been a particularly strong campaign for them here on Border. A map which is leaning into the aggression from Elevate, which was lacking a little bit in the first couple of play days, or at least the confidence to back up that mentality. But at the moment, Elevate looking honed in. The defenses especially have been fun to watch. The castle, for me, has probably been the trademark for them so far in extending some of these objectives and making life tricky, forcing particularly a lot of vertical play from the Knights. They won't be employing that strategy, though, in this round. Instead, they'll bring the Oryx. So another frustrating operator that the Knights will need to counter.
Yeah, I don't mind this. I think they kind of realized, Elevate, that the castle barricades didn't quite hold up as well against both Buck and Sledge, and that it was dealt with quite comfortably by the Knights. That left them kind of hemmed in on site without much way of defense. This is going to provide them with a little bit more roam potential in denying the Knights from just sitting down below with the Buck, for example, and getting whatever they want, or above with the Sledge, depending on the situation. Sage, though, already with security control, and will be pressured, though. And has to be. It's a punch over towards 90. Sage, no one has really spotted anyone yet through just pure timing. Now shots do go out, but they don't land really as you would want, but at least it's pressure.
Sage wanting to work the floor. Josh over towards break room alongside. This has been a very slow round for the attack. And the slower the attack moves, the faster the round timer seemingly will in response. Only a minute 10 left. Sage taken down from below. That's the confidence we love to see from Elevate. Mark finding himself on 6-6 in this matchup. Juicy, though, responds. A good trade. Keeping the Knights in this round, and in doing so, keeping them in the map.
Oh, but for how much longer? Onigiri, just a very quiet 14, 5, and 3. In some ways, maybe we don't look at it and highlight it that much because we know how good Onigiri is, but that even for himself is a significant game so far on Border. Hasn't been alone in that, and you know, many people would have maybe wrote Elevate off after Playday 1 and 2, guys. And they lost to Renatus, they lost to the Direwolves. Elevate done. Is this the team shake-up going to end up working? Since then, beaten Wildcard and about to beat the Knights here, so at least a bit of a bounce back. The real test will then come, though, in the last 3 Playdays against some of the top teams, as there's only 10 seconds left. 10 seconds for the Knights to somehow conjure something, and I don't think they've got any idea. There's just no time. Not even remotely close to getting this plant down. Styx is gone, so is Juicy, and so are the Knights. This was so clean from Elevate. 7-2 on Border. Welcome back to Border. Welcome back to Elevate.
Big performance from Elevate, showing that you can defend Border. It's not impossible, and in fact, it was a very strong run from them, and leading the charge from the front, it was Onigiri. The 6th Invitational kill record holder is back, and awesome to see him firing up.
Yeah, absolutely clean from Elevate. They played that perfectly, start to finish. Their attacks were great. The only real blip in this entire game from Elevate was that very opening round when they went for that blitz rush. Yeah. Well, without the blitz, but with the Ying and the Montang, they went for that quick rush into Armory Lockers, and well, obviously didn't work out at all. But since that point in time, guys, it was 7-1 for the rest of the game. That was as one-sided as you can really have in APAC South. Very disappointing for the Knights, and it really does kind of bring the question back, what happened to the map vetoes? How do the Knights allow it to get to Chalet and Border for Elevate to decide where you go to? Because they're not good on either of those 2 maps, apparently.
Yeah, I think there may be an element that Elevate were better prepared on this map than maybe the Knights gave them credit for, especially on those defenses, right? There was a lot of innovation being shown. The castle was a big standout, and their ability to have this pressure around the map, which the Knights never had with that level of safety. So it was awesome to see that Elevate were clearly very prepared on this map. Unfortunately for the Knights, they'll need to go back to the drawing board. If they have to play this again, maybe in a best of 3 in the playoffs, I'd be very scared for them. But that's the question, right? Can they even make the playoffs now? Statistically, they're looking good. But as you made that great point before, Jake, it's because they beat Renatus and they beat Fury. Both of those are teams that the majority of the league are going to beat. Now losing the head-to-head against Elevate, that severely compromises their position.
Certainly does. Kind of feels like Knights might just be about entering a free fall as we head back to the desk.